meantime, there was a big change in Rome. On March 13, 2013, we were gifted with a new leader, Pope Francis, and a big surprise. From the very beginning, he started to dream about what we had dreamt about earlier, a poor church serving the poor. And in that context, we got visitors from all over, reminding us that what we wanted to do is exactly what Pope Francis is envisioning. And then we were reminded by our lay partner, yes, we are running the catacombs, the Domitilla Catacombs. And that is a place where a very important meeting took place. And where a very important pact was signed, a pact between bishops, between Christians, the poor, and the church. So, inspired by the tremendous insights of the Second Vatican Council, 40 bishops met, and more than 500 people later on signed the famous Catacomb Pact, where we realize it's a clear vision, a clear mission for a church, a poor church, serving those that need our services most, the poor and marginalized. This is what we want to do. It's interesting, we are doing it. Pope Francis is animating us to do it, and we realize the pact confirms what we really want to do, namely to do more for those at the margins. So we looked at it in detail, and once of a sudden an idea came to our mind, an idea that is a kind of light that guides us now through difficult moments. In a nutshell, it's the motto, we call it inter gentes, putting the last first. That idea got stuck, and since then that has become our motto. We moved away from ad gentes basically in context of the Second Vatican Council, the idea, still many missionaries coming from Europe, going all over the world and doing missionary work. Today we have a lot of missionaries from all over the world in Europe. So the idea of ad gentes really does not fit anymore. We consulted a lot of theologians, missiologists, for example, and asked them for a different term that would catch people's attention. The term that we got was inter gentes, among the people. And then our concern particularly are the poor. Slowly but surely we realized that that actually fits very nicely into what we as SVDs want to do, looking at our characteristic dimensions. Our 4 characteristic dimensions: communication, we talk about reaching out. We want to be close to people, we want to live among the people. And we want to be with the people in their moments of sorrows and joys. We simply want to participate in their lives. A missionary does not exist and cannot live without people. The second characteristic of an SVD is our concern for justice, peace, integrity of creation. We know this is an important characteristic of us SVDs. Worldwide we are involved. We know that we can do much more, but this is a key concern and should remain a characteristic of an SVD. So if you ask us who an SVD is and what an SVD is, we always refer to 4 characteristic dimensions. The 2 are: we are close to the people, live among the people, and we are concerned about justice, peace, and the integrity of creation. On top of that, a characteristic is mission animation. That means basically that we are involving others, lay people. The term as such is not very nice because the lay are not lay, they're the real experts. We have to admit, as missionaries, we are the ones who are really lay if it comes to expertise. So in that context, it's very important for us to realize that when we put our motto into practice, that we cannot do it alone. We do that together with lay people around the world. And there are many. We have many organizations, but also many who are not members yet of organizations that are supporting our mission, God's mission, in our day-to-day life. Mission animation involving others is crucial. The future of the congregation will not so much depend on our members. It will heavily depend on our collaboration with lay people. Hopefully we'll find a better term, but that is something we want to leave to the lay people. A fourth characteristic, also important for our motto, is our spiritual foundation. As Divine Word missionaries, this is the Word of God. So we want to live a God-centered life. Our foundation is not the catechism. That's an interpretation. What we really want to live is the Word of God. Very often it helps to live biblical stories. This is what people understand. I learned that in the Philippines, the story, for example, of the Good Samaritan, not to pass by when our help is needed. People living in garbage dumps, in impoverished fishing villages and farming villages are in dire need of help. People being exploited in red light districts, people in prisons, etc. People in dire need of help. We do not want to pass by. This is what the Word of God teaches us. It's a practical story. Or not to judge. And then the big challenge, to work for peace. We know as missionaries close to the people and putting the last first, that we will not have any peace unless there's justice. And that is a big challenge in many countries where we are working at this point in time. I believe, together with our lay partners, this is the main issue that we will have to address in the years to come. The issues of peace and justice. It's on the top of our agenda. And then only at the very end, Jesus himself comes into the picture before he has reminded us once again how important justice is. He talks about himself, for my sake. So it's only at the very end of the different beatitudes of the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus brings himself into the picture. Ultimately, to say with Mother Teresa, we are not doing it for something, but we are doing it for somebody. Francis, his speeches, his homilies, his exhortations, his writings, it seems to me that there is always a threefold program. The first is to put God, to put Jesus, to put the gospel back into the center of our church, of our communities, of our personal lives. Jesus, the gospel, back into the center. As a consequence, many things will change. The first thing that will change is ourselves. And that is the conversion the Pope is envisioning for everybody, the bishops, the cardinals, for himself, for us too as religious, for our lay mission partners, a conversion. So Jesus back into the center, the gospel back into the center, a conversion, and then we do mission. Not only us, but together with others. Particularly the laity is called to discover their co-responsibility for building up God's kingdom. In simple terms, to be close to those in need and to put the last first. Without the church, the world would be much poorer. And I believe that without religious congregations such as the SVD, the world would be much poorer. Looking at the tremendous amount of work that our confreres together with their mission partners are doing worldwide, looking at all the parishes that we are running that are serving the people, close to the people, and in many parishes we have programs for the poor, looking at our schools, at our universities, at our research institutes, looking at our rehabilitation centers, our programs for street children, for exploited women, together with the SSPS sisters and many, many people of goodwill in many different countries, with Hindus and Muslims and non-believers and people who are highly secularized. This is what is happening worldwide. I am convinced that the world would be much poorer without the church. And that is why I believe we should be very grateful for that. That is the starting point for any change, to realize that our predecessors have done a lot of good work, that our contemporary confreres are doing a lot of good work. The question then is where to improve. In this context, I met a lot of bishops, particularly in South America, but also in European countries, former communist countries. In private conversations, I must say, I was deeply touched by what I have encountering these people. Namely, what faith can do to a person, how the Second Vatican Council really has changed leaders and how it has inspired these leaders as bishops worldwide, particularly South America and Eastern Bloc countries, but also Europe, Western Europe, and Asia, as well as Africa, how this Second Vatican Council has inspired people to be a different church. At the same time, the big temptation that is happening worldwide, where it seems that we have forgotten about the spirit of the Second Vatican Council, and where we have forgotten the spirit of the Catacomb Pact. The Pact, again rediscovered, close to 50 years old, is a challenge for the Church. It is a challenge for us as SVDs, and it will remain a challenge for generations to come. So we are grateful to our lay mission partners, reminding us that this pact is so important. It's basically a movement in Germany that reminded us how important this pact is. A lay movement that was promoting this pact all over the world. Norbert Arnz is one of these theologians behind it. We Are the Church is the movement that has animated many, many people around the world to look at the pact. It was interesting to notice when we started to talk about the pact and started to make our own plans as SVDs to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Second Vatican Council and also the 50th anniversary of the Catacomb Pact, that once of a sudden more and more people came forth and said, this is exactly what we want. So the pact is very much alive among many people around the world. But at the same time, the commemoration will surely contribute to give a foundation to what all of us envision. We know that with empty churches in Europe and churches very much alive in many other continents, we have to find a new way of being church. The lay people will play a very important role. More and more people will have to take responsibility, have to share their God-given gifts and talents with others, particularly with those at the margins. The future, I believe, of our church will depend to a big extent on our lay Christians. As SVDs, as church leaders, we have to make sure that there is enough space for our lay mission partners to share their God-given talents. We have to admit in all humility our limitations and allow others to do what we ourselves cannot do. So that's an important message for our lay partners worldwide. Wherever you are, in which continent you are with us, please continue to serve God and His people. Collaborate with us, take your own responsibility, share God-given gifts and talents. It's important to bring in ideas, share your creativity. This is what is most important for us, because we realize many of the very good ideas that inspire a new church do come from lay people. Let us not as SVD stand in the way of our lay mission partners. Give them enough space to be what they want to be, namely partners in mission. So that's important for us at this point in time when we commemorate the pact. The details of the pact, I'm sure that will remain a big challenge for Pope Francis. That's something we have to address ourselves internally in our church too. In a secularized world, I would not give up so easily on faith. The interpretations and the way we celebrate it, that will change, but the essentials will remain. Without faith, without God, life will not have any meaning. And that is what we as missionaries want to do. We want to be missionaries. What is very touching still for me is the tremendous amount of love that people have for our missionaries. My experience is that our missionaries can do very difficult tasks because of the love of the people. So that's a message for our lay partners. Continue loving our people, our missionaries. Being a missionary, in conclusion, for me, I always tell our conference, is very simple. You care for the people, and they will care for you. You share your faith with the people, and the people will share their faith with you. And then finally, you love the people, and they will love you.